Hello students, today we are going to study about chapter 15, Air Around Us. We have already studied two parts of this chapter related to the properties of air, the composition of air, what about atmosphere. Now today we are going to study about few topics like availability of oxygen. Right? Availability means where it is present and how much. Right? How we are getting oxygen. So there are two places you can say it's on land and in air. Sorry, it's on land on or in water. So we are going to see that how oxygen is present inside the water through a small activity. So let me share that activity with you. Just a second. So this is the activity.
Water has air in it. It is known that animals that live in water require oxygen for respiration. But how do they obtain the oxygen underwater? The following activity shows that water has air dissolved in it. Take
As you can see, there is a beaker which you are taking and you are filling it in the filling water in it and you are boiling it. This is a normal process which your mother also use it daily in the kitchen. So you can stand aside and just see that what is there in it. You will be able to see small bubbles coming out of it. Okay, so that small bubbles are basically the oxygen which is coming out of the water, right? So there is a gas inside the water that is coming out.
a glass beaker filled with water and place it on a tripod stand with a Bunsen burner below the stand. Gradually heat the beaker. Bubbles form in the beaker which rise to the surface
This bubble is basically because of the oxygen only.
and the water is said to be boiling. When the water is initially heated, the air inside the water starts to escape and hence the bubbles are formed. Then after some time, when the water is heated up to a certain extent, it starts to boil and gets converted to water vapor. Thus water contains air dissolved in it, and this air is the source for oxygen for the animals living underwater. Water has air.
Yes, so absolutely right. This oxygen is only uh, present in the water in this form, which is known as the combined form. And because it is present in the combined form, it is uh, available for plants and animal inside the water, right? And it is in the dissolved form. And only 1% of the oxygen is dissolved in water, which is essential for aquatic, which is available for aquatic organisms. So it is very, very, very important to know that the oxygen is present inside the water in this form, right? Let us have the another experiment in which it says that the oxygen or the air is present inside the soil, right? First we have studied that the air is present or the oxygen is present inside the water through an experiment. Now we are going to see an experiment having which says that air is inside the soil also, right? So I am going to discuss that with you. Just a second.
Air is present in the soil, just as there are animals that live in water. There are also animals that live under the surface of the soil. These animals also require air to live. The following activity demonstrates the presence of air in the soil. Dig out a small lump of soil from your garden. Place this lump of soil in a small vessel. Pour a small amount of water on it. Bubbles are observed coming out of the soil. This is because the water molecules displace the air present between the soil particles, and the air rises and escapes from the surface as bubbles. This air is utilized by the organisms living in the soil, such as ants, beetles, and earthworms, to respire. The animals that live under the soil make deep holes and burrows in order to facilitate the free flow of air within the soil. Earthworms are especially popular in this aspect and are known as farmers' friends since they keep the different layers of soil under continuous rotation, thereby keeping the soil fertile. It has been observed that a lot of worms and animals that live inside the soil come out during the rainy season. This is because the water from the rain displaces the animals in the soil, making it hard for the animals to respire. Soil is thoroughly ploughed before the cultivation of crops so that there is always a steady flow of nutrients, water, and air. Air
Right. So, as we have seen a small activity that you need to take a lump of soil from your garden or surroundings and keep it in the beaker. Right? When you keep it in the beaker, you will see that, and you just pour a water on it. So, you are able to see small bubbles coming out of that soil. So, that means the air was inside that soil. And why it is important? It is important for all the animals living inside it. The organisms that live inside the soil and the plant roots respire in the soil is because of this air only which is present in the soil. A lot of burrows and holes are formed in deep soil by the animals living in the soil. Right? You have seen earthworms, you have seen rabbits, rats, cockroaches, and the ants. These all animals and insects are just living inside the soil because of this property only, that air is having air is basically present inside the soil, right? Then the next is these burrows also make spaces available for air to move in and out of the soil. These burrows, which are made by ant, cockroaches, rabbits, these are basically also helping the air to go inside the soil, right? And make it more favorable for these organisms to live. However, when it rains heavily, obviously when there is a heavy rain, these burrows and holes are filled with water. So as you know that if something is being occupied, then that if something needs to be displaced का मतलब है किसी चीज को अगर हम फिल कर दें तो हम एयर को उसमें फिल नहीं कर सकते, करेक्ट? So if there is water filled if water is filled inside the burrows, then the air is basically replaced, right? पहले हवा थी वहां पे, अब पानी भर गया. तो अगर पानी भर गया तो the problem is that these insects and animals cannot breathe, right? So they come out of the soil at these seasons, which is known as monsoon season. So you can see a lot of earthworms, snails coming out of the soil just because of this reason. So in this situation, animals living in the soil have to come out for respiration. So this is the experiment which says that air is present inside the soil also. Now let's have the most important question which we should know, that how is animals and plants interdependent on each other? Okay, how is animals and plants interdependent on each other? Interdependent means एक दूसरे पे कैसे dependent है वो, ठीक है? एक दूसरे पे किस तरह से डिपेंडेंट है, एक दूसरे पे किस तरह से एक दूसरे को हेल्प करते हैं. दिस इज द क्वेश्चन. सो इट्स अ वेरी कॉमन क्वेश्चन एंड you must have read it in your previous classes, that plants are taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen in the daytime. So we are taking that oxygen, giving out carbon dioxide. Then again, the carbon dioxide is taken by plants, and then They give out oxygen. The oxygen is taken by animals, and the animals gives out carbon dioxide, which is taken by plants. This is like a circle going on, right? So this is how plants and animals are interdependent to each other. Interdependent का मतलब होता है एक दूसरे के बिना नहीं रह सकते. If I delete plant from here, so can this cycle be continued? No. If I delete animals from here, can this circle be continued? No. If we remove animals, nobody is there to provide carbon dioxide to the plants, and if we remove plants, then there is no there nobody is there to provide oxygen to the animals. So they are interdependent. Now let us have the uses of air, right? There are a lot of uses of air, like plants also consume oxygen for respiration, right? But they produce more of it than they consume. So that's why we say plants produce oxygen, right? They are consuming, मतलब जितना वो ले रहे हैं उससे ज्यादा वो दे रहे हैं, correct? So the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is maintained through respiration in plants and animals, and by the photosynthesis in plants. So we have studied this. This shows the interdependence of plants and animals. The wind makes the windmill rotate. अगर windmill नहीं चलेगा तो wheat and all these things, water, that electricity is also generated through windmills. So how these windmills will work if wind is not there? So this is one of the use. Then the windmill is used to draw water from tube bells and to run floor mills. So these are the uses of air. Then we have windmills are also used to generate electricity, right? Air helps in the movement of sailing yachts, gliders, parachutes, and aeroplanes. Nothing can move without air, right? Birds, bats, and insects can fly due to the presence of air only. Air also help in the dispersal of seeds and pollen of the flowers of several plants, right? Air plays an important role in water cycle. So these are the important and the uses of air which you already know and you understand also. So this is how our chapter finishes, and I hope you have understood that this chapter very well, right? Thank you.